I didn't think I'd ever hear something so ridiculous in my life. Take that thing off. You're scaring the children. That's how she opened. No hello. No introduction. Nothing. Just a screech across the playground that made half the parents whip their heads around like prairie dogs. And me. I just froze for a second. My stomach dropping. My prosthetic arm. Yeah. It's visible. Sleek titanium with carbon fiber. Not some cheap plastic hook. I take pride in it. I earned it the hard way. But to have some random woman, this Karen with the short platinum bob and oversized sunglasses, demand I remove it in public. At a playground. My God. You could feel the tension snap in the air. I turned slowly, my mouth half open, caught between laughing and spitting fire. Excuse me, I said, my voice louder than I intended. Kids were laughing in the background. Swings squeaking. That little metallic chain rhythm clinking against metal. Birds chirped overhead. And then, dead silence. Even the toddlers sensed something was off. Karen stood there, clutching her designer purse like a shield, her kid half hiding behind her leg. My son doesn't like looking at that, she said, flicking her manicured finger toward my prosthetic. It makes him uncomfortable. You should take it off if you want to be around normal families. Normal families. Jesus Christ. I could feel my pulse in my throat. A few parents gasped. One guy muttered, "What the hell?" under his breath. I wanted to laugh, but instead I just exhaled through my nose. Slow. Sharp. Lady, this isn't a hat I can just take off. This is my arm. She rolled her eyes like I'd inconvenienced her Starbucks order. Then maybe you should stay home. Why bring, whatever that is, to a playground? Children shouldn't be forced to see things like that. She really said it. Things. Like I was a horror prop. I swear I felt heat crawl up the back of my neck. My daughter, 5 years old, bright pink sneakers, hair in 2 wild pigtails, ran up to me, gripping my leg. "Daddy, can we go on the slide again?" Her little voice broke through the tension, and I looked down at her, then back at Karen. My daughter didn't give a damn about my prosthetic. She thought it was cool, even superhero-like. And here was this woman, trying to turn it into a shame. I crouched, kissed my kid's head, whispered, "Go ahead, sweet pea. I'll watch you." She dashed back, giggling. No fear, no discomfort. And I straightened up, squaring my shoulders, staring Karen dead in the eye. "Listen," I said, voice low, controlled, but trembling just enough that it carried. "This arm saved my life. I lost my real one serving overseas. You don't have to like it, but you damn sure don't get to tell me to take it off. You understand?" Her lips tightened. She wasn't used to people talking back. She puffed up. Louder now. "This is a community space. The Homeowners Association has rules about disturbances. If you don't leave, I'll file a complaint." I actually laughed then. Bitter. Sharp. "A disturbance. You're the only disturbance here." People around us started nodding. One mom whispered, "Good for you." A dad pulled out his phone, recording quietly. You could hear that faint ding of the camera app starting, and it was like a gun cocking in the silence. Karen saw it. She saw the eyes on her. But she wasn't done. Oh no. Karens never are. She jutted her chin out. "Fine. I will file a complaint. Don't think the Homeowners Association won't back me up. They want this neighborhood to stay respectable." Respectable. God. The word tasted like rust in my mouth. Now here's where it flipped. The mini victory, as I like to call it, because the Homeowners Association president himself was there that day, sitting on a bench watching his grandson on the jungle gym. Quiet man. Polo shirt. Khakis. Glasses. He stood up, cleared his throat, and every head turned his way. "Karen," he said, steady but firm, The only thing disrespectful here is what just came out of your mouth. Boom. I almost wanted to clap. Her face went beet red. Lips twitching. What? I'm protecting children. No, he said, shaking his head. You're harassing a veteran and a father in front of half the neighborhood. You make one complaint and I'll personally see to it that the board dismisses it and documents your conduct instead. Gasped. Murmurs. A few stifled laughs. Karen stammered. You can't. But the fight drained out of her like air from a punctured balloon. For a second, I thought that was the end of it. She huffed, grabbed her kid, muttered something about lawyers under her breath and stormed off toward her car. Tires screeched as she peeled away. Everyone else went back to chatting. Kids back to laughing. I felt this wave of shaky relief, like I'd been holding my breath the whole time. My daughter ran back to me, hugged my leg. Daddy, you okay? I bent down, hugged her tight. Yeah, baby girl. I'm okay. But if only it ended there. See, Karen wasn't bluffing. 2 days later, I got a letter taped to my front door. Official Homeowners Association letterhead. Complaint. Unsettling prosthetic device worn in community play areas. Disturbance to children. Request for compliance with Homeowners Association standards. Signed. Not by the president, but by 2 board members clearly in Karen's pocket. My hands shook as I held it. I laughed out loud. That bitter, empty laugh that sounds more like a choke. She'd actually done it. She twisted her humiliation into revenge. I called the president immediately. He cursed under his breath. Told me not to worry. Said he'd handle it at the next board meeting. But you know how these things go. The process dragged. Weeks of back and forth. Emails. Policy reviews. Meanwhile, Karen strutted around like she'd won, smirking whenever she passed me at the mailboxes. I wanted to scream. I wanted to march up and shove the letter in her face. But instead, I waited. And karma, sweet, sharp karma, waited with me. Because one evening, maybe a month later, I heard shouting from across the street. Sirens blaring in the distance. I stepped outside. Neighbors gathering on porches. And there she was, Karen, screaming at 2 EMTs. Her kid had fallen off his scooter, scraped up pretty bad. Blood down his knee. Wailing. The EMTs tried to help. But Karen was losing it. Yelling, "Don't touch him. Don't touch him." Why? Because one of the EMTs had a prosthetic leg. I swear on my life. The irony almost knocked me over. She was actually pushing them away, screaming about freaks and diseases, while her kid sat on the pavement crying his eyes out. Finally, her own husband shoved past her. Let the EMT bandage the boy. The look he shot her. Pure disgust. And everyone saw it. The whole damn street. Phones out again. Whispers spreading like wildfire. By the next Homeowners Association meeting, the board president didn't even have to defend me. He just held up his phone, played the video of Karen's meltdown. The room filled with groans, mutters, laughter. One woman said, "Uncomfortable. Looks like you're the problem, not him." Karen's face crumpled. For once, she had no words, no comeback. Nothing but the sound of her own reputation burning down around her. The board voted to dismiss her complaint unanimously and censured her for harassment. Walking out of that room, I felt lighter than I had in months. My daughter held my hand, swinging it as she skipped along. "See, Daddy, you are a superhero." I squeezed her hand, my throat tight. "Yeah, baby," something like that. And Karen. She couldn't even meet my eyes anymore. Not at the playground. Not at the mailbox. Not anywhere. Because that's the thing about people like her. They'll scream about being uncomfortable. About rules. About respectability. But when the mirror turns, when the neighborhood sees their ugliness raw and unfiltered, That's when they finally taste the bitterness they've been pouring on everyone else. And God, does it taste sour? If you enjoyed this story, thank you for listening. Please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Wild Homeowners Association and Karen drama stories. I didn't believe it until I saw the footage with my own eyes. The HOA president Karen, in every possible sense of the word, pushed my dog into the neighborhood pond. On purpose. Broad daylight. No shame. And the worst part? She had no idea the Coast Guard was testing surveillance drones nearby. Yeah. She really messed with the wrong neighbor this time. Let me rewind a bit, deep breath, because honestly, this whole thing still gets my blood boiling. We'd moved into this cookie-cutter suburban hellscape 2 years ago for peace and quiet. Big yard, good school district, and hey, the houses didn't look too soul-crushing. That was before I met her. Karen. Short blonde bob, always in khakis, always holding a clipboard like it was a sword of righteousness. She sniffed us out the moment we unloaded the moving truck. Just so you know, we take property maintenance very seriously here, she warned with a fake smile stretched too tight. That was our welcome. Still, we followed every ridiculous rule. Lawn trim to HOA regulation length. Yes, that's a real thing. Shutters a permitted shade of beige, even paid extra to hide the trash cans behind custom fencing. But the one thing Karen hated the most? My dog, Scout. Scout's a rescue. Big, goofy, mixed-breed shepherd with a bark louder than most cars, and a heart made of actual gold. Everyone on the block loved him. Kids hugged him on their way to school. Elderly Mr. Brenner down the street always brought him biscuits on his morning walk. But not Karen. Oh no. She claimed Scout was intimidating and a threat to the tranquility of the HOA. You'd think he was a coyote the way she talked. It started with complaints. Your dog barks too loud. Your dog's leash is too long. Your dog blinked at me aggressively. Ridiculous things. But I'm not one to start drama, so I'd smile, nod, and keep it moving. Until last Tuesday. Scout and I were walking along the Greenbelt Trail behind our street, the one that runs along the pond. It was a quiet afternoon. Sunny. Birds chirping. Peaceful. Scout was trotting beside me, leash clipped, tail wagging. Then I heard it. Control your beast. That voice. That tone. Karen was marching toward us like she was storming a castle. He's off the path again, she snapped. I've told you 100 times. The grass there is HOA maintained. You're trampling the fescue. I held back a laugh. Fescue? Who even talks like that? Karen? I said, calm as I could manage. We're on the trail. He didn't even step off. She huffed and crossed her arms like some hall monitor from hell. I'm documenting this. You'll be hearing from the board. That's when Scout did something he always does when someone's upseath, wagged his tail and leaned his big head forward like, hey, maybe if I smile, you'll like me again. But Karen just scowled. Then God help me blinked. And it happened. She shoved my dog with both hands right in the chest. Scout yelped and stumbled, slipping down the muddy slope and splash. Straight into the pond. What the hell is wrong with you? I yelled. Karen looked pleased, like she'd just proven a point. He came at me, she lied, arms already folding again like a villain in a soap opera. That dog is dangerous. I was defending myself. I rushed to the water line. Scout was paddling back, soaked and scared, his tail tucked. I helped him up with shaking hands. He was okay, thank God, but furious tears blurred my vision. My voice cracked. You put your hands on my dog. You'll be hearing from my lawyer, she sneered. Now, here's the twist Karen didn't see coming. About a month ago, a friend of mine from the Coast Guard had mentioned they were testing surveillance drones in suburban environments. Some boring logistics experiment. They'd gotten special clearance to monitor certain areas for a week. Coincidentally, our very Greenbelt Trail was one of the map zones. I'd laughed it off then. But now, I texted him immediately. Hey, you said you had footage of the pond area, right? He replied within 5 minutes. Yeah, everything. Want me to pull it? Oh yes, I did. The next morning I had the video in hand. A crystal clear 4K drone clip with audio. It showed everything. Karen marching up. Karen yelling. Karen shoving a happy, harmless dog into the pond. And me, shocked, horrified, scrambling to help him out. But I didn't go to the HOA board. Not yet. See, Karen is the board. At least the president. Her buddies sit on it too, and they'd cover for her faster than a cat covers crap in a litter box. No, I needed the court of public opinion. So I posted it. No dramatic captions. Just the video. On the neighborhood Facebook group. On Nextdoor. And yes, Reddit. Called it, "What happens when an HOA Karen thinks no one's watching?" It blew up. By that evening, the post had over 100,000 views. Comments were flooding in. File assault charges. Ban her from the HOA. I'd go nuclear if someone did that to my dog. Neighbors began talking. Old stories surfaced. Turns out, Karen had been pushing people around for years. Fining people for kids' chalk drawings. Banning wind chimes. Reporting a guy for installing a wheelchair ramp that didn't match the neighborhood aesthetic. But now, she'd crossed a line. A furry, wet, tail-wagging line. I printed the footage and mailed a copy to Animal Control. Another to the HOA's Legal Oversight Committee. Yes, they had one, just never used it. Then I reported her for animal cruelty. Legally. And when local news caught wind, thanks, Reddit Karen's name was broadcast on every station in town. The next board meeting? Packed. People showed up with lawn chairs and popcorn like it was a summer movie. I brought Scout clean, dry, and with a fresh grooming appointment in a short leash. He sat calmly as Karen was grilled for 40 minutes straight. "You assaulted a neighbor's pet. You lied about it. You embarrassed this entire HOA." She tried to blame deepfake drone editing. The lawyer they'd brought in audibly groaned. "Jack đã nói." But here's the kicker: just when Karen thought she could weasel out with her usual manipulations, the lawsuit papers arrived. Yep. A neighbor, inspired by the viral video and fed up with her tyrannical reign, filed a class action lawsuit against her and the HOA board for harassment, abuse of power, and emotional distress. The legal pressure mounted fast, and suddenly Karen's little kingdom of control started to crumble. She showed up at the hearing with that same smug look, but the judge wasn't having any of it. "This behavior is unacceptable," the judge declared, referencing the drone footage as irrefutable evidence. Karen was ordered to step down immediately, and the HOA board was placed under court supervision pending a full investigation. The neighbors? They cheered quietly, relieved that justice was finally served. Scout? Well, he became a local hero. Kids made him honorary mayor stickers, and even the old grumpy Mr. Brenner gave him an extra biscuit. The pond? It was cleaned up, and the neighborhood agreed to install new signs reminding everyone to treat animals with respect because, yes, the suburban drama taught us all something important. Looking back, it's wild how one moment one shove sparked a chain reaction that flipped the whole neighborhood upside down. Karen's own arrogance and cruelty backfired spectacularly. Caught on camera by a drone she didn't even know existed. I still can't believe it sometimes. Who would have thought? But here's what really matters. Standing up to bullies like Karen takes guts, takes community, and it takes proof, the kind that no amount of denial or lawsuits can erase. So, if you ever find yourself facing a Karen in your life, remember this story. Record, share, fight back. Because karma, it's real and it's coming for them. And hey, if you want to catch more wild HOA drama, jaw-dropping karma stories, and see justice served with a side of popcorn-worthy conflict, make sure you hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel. You won't want to miss the next lawsuit showdown. Couldn't believe it. I walked out one morning, coffee still steaming in my hand, and there it was. Her damn SUV parked across my driveway again. I swear my heart skipped. Not in fear but in pure rage. Because I knew exactly who did it and why. Homeowners Association Karen. I set my cup on the hood of my truck and just stared. Jaw tight. Fingers drumming against the metal. You ever feel like someone is daring you? Baiting you into a fight? That's what it was. She knew I had work at 8. She knew my schedule down to the minute. Hell, she even bragged about it at the last Homeowners Association meeting. That she noticed who left the neighborhood late. Creepy. right? I let out a long breath, trying not to snap too early. Not today, Karen. I muttered. But oh, she wanted me to lose it. That woman thrived on conflict the way a vulture thrived on roadkill. I knocked on her door. Hey, Karen. You're blocking my driveway again. The door creaked open and she appeared with that smug smirk. Robe tied too tight like she was about to deliver a sermon. Oh, relax. It's just for a little while. The street sweeper's coming and I don't want my car scratched. You don't mind, do you? Her tone. God, that tone. Was sugar laced with venom. Yeah, I do mind. Move it.
Y gotta go.
She folded her arms. Well, maybe you should have asked the homeowners association before installing that oversized truck. It takes up too much room anyway. Consider this my little correction. My jaw clenched. Correction. You're trespassing. And she laughed. Actually laughed. The kind of laugh that makes your skin crawl because it isn't joy. It's mockery. I swear. If I didn't walk away right then, something worse would have happened. So I turned, stormed back inside and sat at my kitchen table staring at my untouched coffee. Hands trembling. God, why did she keep getting away with this? Why did no one in the neighborhood stand up to her? The truth was, she was the homeowners association president. She had the power, or at least she believed she did. And no one wanted to risk fines. No one wanted to deal with her tirades. So they stayed silent. And she got bolder. But that morning was the last straw. I called the non-emergency police line. My voice shook with equal parts fury and adrenaline as I explained, and the dispatcher's calm, "We'll send someone out," was like a lifeline. I waited, pacing the living room, glancing out the window every 30 seconds. When the cruiser finally rolled up, blue lights reflecting against her SUV, I actually felt my shoulders drop in relief. But then, oh God, Karen stormed out barefoot, robe flapping, hair in curlers like a banshee. "Officer," she screeched. "This man is harassing me." I nearly choked. "What? You parked in my driveway." The officer held up a hand, trying to cut through the chaos. "Ma'am, step aside." "Sir, is this your property?" "Yes," I said firmly, shoving the deed papers I kept on file into his hands. "That's my driveway. She's blocked me in 3 times this week." Karen scoffed, loud enough to draw curious neighbors to their windows. "Oh, please. He's just dramatic. I'll move it when I feel like it. You can't tow me. It's not like I'm on city property." I'll never forget the officer's smirk. "Actually, ma'am, blocking private access is illegal, and refusing to move when asked. That's a violation. Step aside." Her face drained. For the first time in forever, I saw panic flash across her eyes. She tried to sputter out excuses, hands waving wildly, but the officer already had the tow truck called in. The sound of that heavy engine approaching, the grinding, clanking chains, was pure music to my ears. "Wait, you can't. I'm the homeowners association president," she shrieked, as if the title gave her immunity. The officer didn't even blink.
Mom.
The homeowners association doesn't override state law. Oh, God. I had to bite my lip to stop myself from grinning too hard as the tow truck driver hooked her SUV. The metal clinked. The hydraulics hissed, and the whole neighborhood watched in silence as her pride and joy got yanked up into the air. "No." Karen's scream pierced the air, almost animalistic. She actually tried to grab onto the bumper until the officer pulled her back. And that's when it happened. The twist I didn't see coming. As the officer ran her license plate, he frowned. "Ma'am, do you realize your registration is expired? And you have 2 unpaid citations in the system?" Her face went pale as chalk. That's a mistake." "Doesn't look like it," he said. printing the ticket. You'll be facing multiple fines. The silence that followed was delicious. Every neighbor who had suffered under her tyranny, who had been fined for having a lawn gnome too tall or a holiday light too bright, stood at their windows and finally saw justice. I exhaled a laugh. God, felt good. I actually leaned against my truck, savoring every second of her meltdown. She screamed about conspiracies, about vendettas, about how she'd take this all to court. But nobody cared. Nobody even stepped out to defend her. When the tow truck pulled away with her SUV dangling behind it, the sound of her sobs echoed down the street. And I'll admit it, I felt a shiver of satisfaction. But here's the kicker. A week later, I found a letter in my mailbox. Official Homeowners Association letterhead. My stomach dropped for a second, thinking she was retaliating. But when I opened it, I nearly laughed out loud. It wasn't from Karen. It was from the board. Turns out the other members had secretly been waiting for a reason to oust her. That incident, the tow, the fines, the screaming in her robe at police, was the nail in her coffin. She was removed as president, effective immediately. Can you imagine? The queen finally dethroned. The dictator finally toppled. The relief in the neighborhood was almost physical. You could feel it in the air, like the first cool breeze after a suffocating summer. People waved at each other again. Kids played without her yelling about chalk drawings. It was peaceful. And Karen, well, she tried to sue the police department for unlawful towing. She actually filed a lawsuit claiming emotional distress, harassment, and, get this, loss of community respect. The judge dismissed it before it even went to trial. She had to eat the court fees herself. I caught her once after that. Months later, she shuffled past me in the grocery store. No SUV, no makeup, no power, just a tired, bitter woman pushing a squeaky cart. She wouldn't look me in the eye. I should have felt pity, but all I felt was closure. Because karma doesn't just knock. It drags you out in front of everyone, throws your SUV on a tow hook and charges you fines you can't weasel out of. And Karen, she finally learned she wasn't above the law. I'll never forget the look on Karen's face the day she tried to frame me. You know that smug, pinched smile some people wear like a weapon? Yeah, that was her trademark expression as she stood there on my porch, arms crossed, acting like the queen of the neighborhood. And guess what she accused me of? Counterfeit goods. Me. What kind of insane movie-level drama was this? It all started with a knock that sounded more like a demand. Bang, bang, bang. I jumped, my coffee mug clinking against the table, and hurried to the door. There she was, Karen from the HOA, her hair sprayed into a helmet and her sunglasses perched high like she was leading some FBI task force. "We need to talk," she barked, not even waiting for an invite. I sighed, gripping the edge of the door. "Karen, it's 7:30 a.m. on a Saturday. Could this wait until—" "No," she snapped, stepping closer. "We've had reports about suspicious packages coming to your house. I think you're running something shady." "What?" I blinked, completely thrown off. "Suspicious packages? You mean my online orders?" "Karen, I literally ordered dog food and a blender last week. What are you even—" She raised her hand like she was stopping traffic. "Don't lie to me. I know counterfeit goods when I see them. And I will report this to the authorities if you don't cooperate." Her voice had that sharp, fake authority tone that made my blood boil. I took a deep breath, trying to keep calm. "Karen, I don't know what fantasy you're living in, but I'm not running some black market operation. Now, if you'll excuse me," and just as I was about to close the door, she slid her foot forward. She actually blocked my door with her ridiculous wedge sandal. "Don't test me," she hissed. "I've seen your garage. All those boxes stacked up like a warehouse. Don't tell me that's just household items." I felt my jaw drop. "You mean the boxes from moving? I just bought this place 3 months ago." Maybe if the HOA spent less time spying on me and more time fixing the broken streetlights, we wouldn't have to do this dance every week. My voice cracked with anger, and I could hear my own pulse in my ears. Karen's smirk widened like she'd just scored a point. "We'll see about that," she muttered, turning on her heel. I thought that was another pointless HOA drama. Oh boy, was I wrong. 2 days later, just as I was pulling into the driveway, a black SUV rolled past me slow. Too slow. My gut clenched. Something about the tinted windows and the unmarked look screamed official. By the time I reached my front door, I saw Karen across the street, leaning against her mailbox like a snake waiting to strike. And then I heard its sirens. My heart dropped. "No way," I whispered, my keys slipping from my hand. The SWAT team, yes, an actual SWAT team stormed my property. "Search warrant," one officer barked as they kicked open my side gate. Neighbors peeked from their windows like it was free reality TV. Karen, of course, had her phone out, recording every moment. "This is for the safety of our community," she yelled, fake tears in her voice. "Wait, what's going on?" I stammered, holding my hands up as one officer approached. "We received a tip about counterfeit electronics being stored here," he said flatly. "Step aside." My mind spun like a broken carousel. A tip? Karen. It had to be Karen. Inside, they tore through my garage, flipping open boxes, scanning labels and muttering into radios. I stood there, stunned, my breath shallow, my palms sweating. "This is insane. These are just my moving boxes. Look at the receipts." I pleaded, but nobody was listening. Karen's voice pierced the chaos. "Check the big black box in the corner. That's the one I saw." I stared at her. "What black box?" Then my gaze shifted, and I realized there was a box in the far corner I didn't recognize. My stomach turned cold. "What the hell?" I whispered, walking toward it, but an officer stopped me. They cracked it open and I swear I felt my knees buckle. Inside were stacks of electronics phones, tablets, cameras, none of which I'd ever seen before. "Are you kidding me?" I yelled, my voice shaking. "That's not mine. I don't even own this stuff." Karen's grin could have split her face in half. "Told you," she said sweetly, her phone still rolling. "Our HOA can't tolerate crime." I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab that smug phone out of her hand and toss it into the nearest storm drain. "You planted this, didn't you?" I snapped, pointing at her. Karen gasped theatrically, clutching her chest. "How dare you accuse me?" she shouted, her voice carrying over the crowd of gawking neighbors. The SWAT leader gave me a long, hard look. "Sir, we'll need you to come with us for questioning." That was the moment I realized Karen might actually ruin my life. I could already see the neighborhood Facebook group lighting up with gossip. My throat felt like sandpaper. "Wait," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "Check the fingerprints." "Do it. I'll wait right here." Karen froze for half a second, just a flicker, but I caught it. She didn't expect me to push back. "Go ahead," she said, but there was a nervous edge now. Hours passed. The forensic techs checked every single item. I sat on my porch steps, my head in my hands, while Karen hovered like a vulture. At one point, I heard her whisper into her phone, "No, they're supposed to just take him away." That's when something inside me snapped. "Officer," I called out, my voice sharp, "you should know that Karen here has been harassing me since I moved in. Maybe check her property too, just in case." Karen's eyes went wide. "You have no right. You accused me of crimes I didn't commit." I cut her off. "If you're so sure I'm guilty, you won't mind them checking your garage too, right?" There was a long, tense silence. The SWAT leader glanced at his team. "We'll do a quick check." "Ma'am, please step aside." Karen sputtered like a broken sprinkler, but the officers didn't wait. They crossed the street. What happened next? Oh, sweet justice. As soon as they opened Karen's garage, I heard the words that nearly made me laugh out loud. "We've got something here," an officer shouted. I stood, my pulse racing. They wheeled out 3 massive crates identical to the black box that had been in my garage. And inside, a whole stash of counterfeit goods, perfectly sealed, ready for resale. The look on Karen's face was priceless. She went pale, her lips twitching like she'd just swallowed a lemon. That's not mine," she shrieked. "Someone must have planted that." I couldn't help iti laughed. "Oh, now someone planted it? Karma's fast, huh?" Karen tried everything, tears, fake fainting, even accusing the SWAT team of conspiracy. But the evidence was clear. Her fingerprints were all over the crates. Turns out, she had been running an illegal side hustle for months, using HOA authority to cover her tracks. And guess what? The tip she sent about me? It backfired spectacularly. Karen's voice cracked as they handcuffed her right there on the street. "This is a mistake. I'm the HOA president. You can't do this to me." The officer's reply was cold and final. "Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you." The crowd of neighbors gasped. Phones were out, filming everything. I could almost hear the neighborhood group chat exploding with emojis and comments. I leaned against my porch railing, arms crossed, watching as her carefully curated image crumbled like dust. My heart was still pounding, but the anger that had been burning inside me all week felt strangely replaced with relief and maybe a hint of dark satisfaction. "You tried to ruin me, Karen," I muttered under my breath. "But you just buried yourself." Over the next few days, the fallout was nuclear. The HOA called an emergency meeting without Karen, of course. Turns out, the counterfeit ring she was running had been funding all her special HOA projects. Remember those unnecessary surveillance cameras she insisted we needed? Paid for by dirty money. The fancy new community garden with overpriced planters? Also linked to her little scheme. When the story broke online, our entire neighborhood went viral. I'm talking thousands of shares and comments like, "HOA Karen gets instant karma," and "She messed with the wrong neighbor." Then came the cherry on top. I got a call from a lawyer representing some of Karen's customers. People who unknowingly bought her fake electronics. Guess what they were planning? A lawsuit. A massive class action one. And because Karen used HOA accounts to launder her fake profits, the lawsuit named the HOA too. For a moment, I felt bad for the innocent board members, but honestly, they had let Karen run wild for too long. Maybe this was the reset button we all needed. Meanwhile, I couldn't walk down the street without someone stopping me. "Hey man, you really showed her." Or, "You should have seen her face, priceless." It was almost embarrassing, but in a weird way, it felt like justice had been served, not just for me, but for every neighbor she had bullied. One evening, as I was taking out the trash, one of the SWAT officers who had raided my house drove by and rolled down his window. "Good thing you stood your ground," he said with a grin. "She almost had us fooled." "Not anymore." I shook my head, still in disbelief. "Guess I owe you guys some coffee and donuts," I replied. He laughed and drove off, leaving me with a strange sense of closure. Karen? She's facing federal charges now, with her mugshot plastered all over local news. The HOA disbanded within a month, unable to survive the scandal and the mounting legal fees. Her empire of control? Gone. Just like that. And me? I learned one thing. Never underestimate the power of patience and evidence. Because when someone tries to frame you, sometimes the best revenge is simply letting the truth burn them alive. So, if you enjoyed this wild HOA versus Karen story and want to hear more real-life neighborhood dramas and lawsuit-level karmic justice, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for the next jaw-dropping tale.